if we have observed the nature of love, love, we might have noticed that love has a tendency, a nature, a peculiar characteristic, which is that it wants to expand constantly. What is it?
Open the door.
Hey, could you open the door back there? Get the airflow. It has this tendency to constantly expand, and unlimitedly so apparently. It just doesn't want to stop. And we see this in relationships between people, that if you're in a relationship with another person, and if the love becomes stagnant, whoops, issues begin. So, in other words, love absolutely has to expand. And now the question is, why does love need to expand? Because the nature of love is all-encompassing. The nature of love is all-encompassing. In other words, if the love encompasses only, not only, but anything short of everything, it's not love. And therefore, because, I mean, it is love, but it's incomplete. And that's not what love really is. And therefore has this tendency to grow, to expand, and it always wants to expand. And the moment it gets limited, it leaves you. It leaves your presence, leaves your company, leaves your association, just goes. So it has to expand constantly because it is all-encompassing. And there's interesting, just the one quote here by Plato, real quick, for those of you who read Plato's Symposium. Symposium just basically means a meeting, a meetup, like people get together and talk about stuff. So his book Symposium talks about people getting together, a group of people after dinner, and so they sitting all comfy and they're discussing topic of love. And one of the things that was stated there, the vulgar love of the body, which takes wing and flies away when the bloom of youth is over, is disgraceful, and so is the interested love of power or wealth. So one of the important points of the work by Plato's Symposium is that there are different types of love. In other words, when love is not all-encompassing, it's not love. And in yogic terms, it is kama, which is grossly translated in English as lust. In other words, like kama, possessive desire over something, little something. Whereas full love wants to include everything. And so, unless and until some or other our love has encompassed everything, we're definitely going to fail at love. and sometimes people think they have an awesome time going, regarding love, but that's because the love grew really wide. But still, if it didn't grow wide enough to encompass everything, it's incomplete. And there are certainly going to be inconsistencies in that experience. Now the next question is, how in the world do you include everything in your love? I mean, we can hardly be conscious of everything, let alone love everything. That is very difficult. And this is the point. This is the point that brings a lot of lovers to the spiritual realm. In other words, at this point, the Bhagavad Gita you were reading, you mentioned Bhagavad Gita, the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita gives the analogy of a tree, but also in other places. I was just thinking of something else. Gives the analogy of a tree to help us understand this. By watering the root of the tree, the whole tree gets nourished. In other words, you don't have to take, what's the English word for the thing that you use to water plants, like a
pails?
Watering can.
Watering can?
Yeah.
With the sprinkler at the top.
Watering can.
Watering can?
Yeah.
That was an easy. That was an easy one. And then you take a watering can, and it's filled with water, and you climb up on a tree and you water each single leaf one by one. It's ridiculous. So, but if you water the root of the tree, you water everything. So to detect the spiritual cause, the spiritual root of the whole existence, which in this mantra is indicated by the word Krishna, then by watering that one root, everything else grows properly. So this is the spiritual essence, like that. That's one little trick if you ever want to give it a shot. You can see how it goes. As a matter of fact, the spiritual yoga teachings of the Vedic Indian tradition say that one of the symptoms of spiritual advancement is twofold. That our love grows equally everywhere. In other words, it's not that you love your boyfriend or girlfriend, but you eat the chicken. You don't make that kind of a discrimination. And the other principle is given in the Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, which is the topic of which is meditation. Hey, we're gonna need you in a minute.
Yeah, but you can.
Okay.
Just go outside 1 minute.
Okay.
If I recall.
Make sure it's not his. It didn't sound too good. And the other principle is that that one who has actually found the root of existence and is watering it will have his or her consciousness transcend the boundaries of one's own body. In other words, the concern, because we often think like, okay, we heard the car smash out there, and we think, oh, I hope it wasn't my car. But one would be more spiritually conscious, would have very little of that kind of discrimination, like that. So that kind of a person will transcend the boundaries of one's own body. So one's concerns will not end where one's body ends. And sometimes people, like my spiritual grand teacher, meaning the teacher of my teacher, said that there is concentrated and extended selfishness. But if it's selfishness, it still means you're not watering the right root. You're not watering the root of it. You're still watering your own little leaf. Yeah. Like you're thinking me and like my. But if you water the root of existence, the root of everything, then naturally your love, if that's what you're really conscious within, and your love is extending everywhere equally. So, is that good? Okay.